After the rebirth, after being reborn, my three sisters could somehow hear my thoughts. Should I tell my eldest sister, Isabella, that the man she dotes on will eventually plot to steal her entire fortune? I saw Isabella flinch slightly when she took Alexander's hand just now. Maybe I shouldn't tell my second sister, Sophia, that Alexander will deliberately have her blinded. I witnessed Sophia leap off Alexander's lap as if pricked by a needle. If my third sister, Amelia, knew she'd end up in a vegetative state for the rest of her life, and that Alexander was behind the accident, wouldn't she be devastated? I saw Sophia, who was feeding Alexander, suddenly dump the food right on his head. It's such a dilemma. Should I tell them or not? Alexander is deliberately getting close to them, only to tear down the Montgomery family and pave the way for the woman he truly loves. Alexander is our family's new butler. He comes with a charm system. He accidentally saved my three villainous sisters, coaxing them into becoming his pawns and making them offer all their resources to him. But I grew jealous of him stealing their affection and tried to expose him at every turn. Eventually, because of this, my three sisters came to loathe me. My eldest sister, a cold-blooded CEO, froze all my cards and kicked me out of the Montgomery house. My second sister, a gentle doctor, secretly switched my medication, leaving me in constant pain. My third sister, a popular star, chose to hide my identity and allowed her fans to mercilessly bully me. My end was tragic. There was no one left to even claim my body. The last time I saw the four of them was in a dilapidated rented room. I was sitting in a wheelchair, dressed in stained clothes, while Alexander wore high-end custom-made attire he could never have afforded before. Surrounded protectively by my three sisters, he glanced sideways at me. Considering we were once best friends, he said, "If you apologize to me today, call me brother-in-law, and I'll forgive you and take you back to the Montgomery house. How about it? Call me brother-in-law. Does he even deserve it? He was the one who disfigured me and left me disabled, shamelessly marrying into the Montgomery family solely to bring it down. But sadly, no one believed me. Everyone thought I was just jealous of Alexander, that I brought this end upon myself." I clenched my jaw and spat fiercely at him. "You think you're worthy? I'd rather die than call you brother-in-law. One day your disgusting true colors will be exposed." Before I could finish, someone slapped me hard across the face. The force was so great that I felt my teeth loosen, my ears rang, and I struggled to open my eyes, only to see Isabella's cold expression. She frowned tightly, as if looking at something utterly revolting. "Ethan, if you can't control your mouth, I don't mind tearing it off for you." I clutched my face, biting down hard. "Sis." She cut me off again. "Don't call me sister. From the day you tried to expose Alexander, you ceased to be our brother." Her words were like sharp knives stabbing into my bleeding heart. The light in my eyes gradually dimmed. I wanted to say something, open my mouth, but my throat was too dry to speak. My heart started hurting again. I clutched my chest, gasping for air. Medication. Sophia rarely smoked anymore, but now because of Alexander, she had picked up the habit again. She took 2 steps closer, pressed the still, burning cigarette, but hard onto the back of my hand, ignoring my muffled cries of pain, and pointed at my chest mockingly. "Ethan, maybe you have congenital heart disease because your heart is too black. I don't think it's worth treating." The pain made me fall out of the wheelchair, nearly suffocating. Amelia slowly crouched down, looked at my emaciated figure, and frowned. "Why pretend to be pitiful, Ethan? Do you really think acting miserable will earn our forgiveness? Let me tell you, you're dreaming. Besides, it looks like you haven't learned your lesson." Her words were full of meaning. I knew what she meant. Just because I cursed Alexander once, she allowed his fans to viciously insult me. Some even followed me, pushed me out of my wheelchair, and watched me crawl on the ground. They often left dead rats at my door. The landlord couldn't stand it and kicked me out. I could only rent this broken down shack next to a garbage dump, with a door that wouldn't even lock. Without medication, even breathing soon became extremely difficult. Like a dying fish, I lay collapsed on the ground, covered in wounds, my consciousness blurred. I tried to recall something not painful from my life, but couldn't remember anything. My sisters ignored my outstretched hand for help and turned away, leaving only a disdainful disgusting behind. I opened my mouth one last time, then could struggle no more. This was already my second rebirth. I had schemed meticulously, planned every step, but still, I couldn't overcome the halo of the chosen male lead. This world was based on a Lucky Charm novel, and Alexander was the protagonist, aiming to destroy the Montgomery family to clear the path for his beloved woman. My three sisters were the main villains, but they would fall for Alexander at first sight, be saved by him, abandon everything, willingly become his servants, and offer all their resources to him. To shield Alexander when he was kidnapped, they even took blows for him. One sister ended up disabled, one blind, and one in a permanent vegetative state. To save them from their fates, I desperately tried to expose Alexander's true motives, but in their eyes, I was just jealous that Alexander had stolen my favored position. I ended up going from the Montgomery family's young master to a disfigured, disabled outcast, despised and cursed by everyone. And no matter how many times I was reborn, Alexander would insinuate himself between my three sisters, successfully replacing the most important place I once held in their hearts. I knew that when I opened my eyes again, everything would reset to the beginning, but this time I was tired. When I opened my eyes, I was still shaken. The shabby, filthy shack had transformed into a bright, warm living room. Warm yellow light illuminated the exquisitely plated food before me. A familiar voice sounded beside me, slightly aggrieved. "Ethan, why aren't you eating? Did I make something you don't like? I'm sorry. I didn't know you disliked this. Tell me what you want to eat, and I'll make it for you." My pupils contracted. It was Alexander's voice. At this point, he had already become my friend, saved my sisters several times, and was starting to gain a reputation as the Montgomery family's lucky charm. He wasn't wearing servant's clothes, but rather designer clothes I had given him, looking more like the Montgomery young master than I did, with his proud demeanor. Now his face was full of grievance, a grown man biting his lower lip as he spoke. I specifically asked Aunt Linda. She said seafood was your favorite. Are you not eating it now because I made it? Don't worry. I followed Aunt Linda's instructions step by step. The act had gone on long enough, but I remained silent. Alexander started getting anxious. "Ethan, why are you ignoring me? Did you start looking down on me because I came from the slums, thinking I'm dirty?" I opened my mouth, but could only manage some meaningless sounds. I raised my hand to my throat, trying to force myself to say something, afraid that upsetting Alexander would give those three sisters, who adored him, another excuse to torment me. But I couldn't utter a complete sentence. Isabella's gaze shifted between Alexander and me, her eyes deep. "Ethan, is this the upbringing of a Montgomery? Regardless, this is Alexander's kind gesture. Even if you don't want to eat it, you should." I lowered my eyes, laughing coldly inside. These three already had eyes only for Alexander. "How could I possibly look down on you? You'll be the other master of the Montgomery house soon enough. What right do I, a disabled person kicked out to live in the slums, have to look down on you? Anyone who didn't know better would think Alexander was your actual brother, the way you defend him." "Oh right, I forgot. Not a brother but a lover, boy. Does anyone even remember I'm allergic to seafood? My life just doesn't matter." For some reason, the dinner table suddenly fell silent. The three women who had seemed cheerful moments before suddenly turned cold, their conversation halting. I forced down the nauseatingly rich seafood bite by bite, fighting the urge to vomit, and managed to smile at Alexander. Isabella's face, initially dark as if a hidden thought had been exposed, saw me quickly finish the seafood. As I turned pale and started to leave, she quickly reached out. "Ethan." Sophia shot her a glare, signaling her to shut up, then turned to me gently. "Ethan, are you not feeling well today? Let me take a look, okay?" She was a doctor in my past life. She prescribed my heart medication, and she was the one who stopped it. She watched me suffer, having long forgotten that I was once the brother she cherished. I stood on the stairs, looking back, my expression hidden in the shadows, unseen by anyone. "Just a minor allergy. It won't kill me. I'm really tired. Stop tormenting me. I'll agree to anything." Sophia froze, her face paling as she apologized to me. "I didn't mean to forget you're allergic to seafood. Didn't mean to forget." Such a clumsy, laughable excuse. I couldn't be bothered with their pretenses anymore and turned, leaving without a backward glance. I knew it as soon as Alexander appeared. No matter what I did, I would be the one not favored, so I just decided to give up trying. A sudden knock on the door pulled me back from my chaotic thoughts. Alexander was back with his usual heart-wrenching look of grievance. His voice choked with tears as he knocked repeatedly, as if he wouldn't stop until I opened up. Ethan, what's wrong? Did I do something to upset you? I apologize. Please don't ignore me, okay? Aren't we best friends? His words sounded incredibly pitiful, but I heard another voice simultaneously in my ear. It was still Alexander's voice, but what it said was the complete opposite of his spoken words. System, what the hell is wrong with Ethan? His recent actions weren't in the script. Now those supporting female characters think I'm bullying him. My affection points dropped by 10. Then came another mechanical voice. Rest assured, host. I've checked. Their affection levels for you are still above 50. The loss points are within controllable limits. I instantly felt like I'd fallen into an ice cave. A chill climbed up my spine to the back of my neck. Even though I was in a warm room, I couldn't help but shiver. Those voices again. In my past life, after Alexander framed me and I was briefly unconscious from the car accident, I often heard Alexander communicating with this mechanical voice near me. I heard them plotting to ruin the Montgomery family, to use it as his stepping stone. After waking up, I immediately went to Isabella to tell her about it. But no matter what I said, all I got was Isabella's disgusted glare. Alexander emerged from Isabella's study, a room no one else was allowed into, looking like the perfect male green tea character. Isabella, dear, maybe Ethan is just confused for a moment and did something rash. It's okay. I forgive him. Isabella's expression grew uglier under Alexander's show of magnanimity. She scolded me in a low voice. Ethan, how could you become like this? After failing to frame Alexander with a car accident, now you try to slander him in front of me. And he even took care of you while you were unconscious, asking me not to blame you. I don't remember the rest clearly. Only that from that moment on, I was truly cast out by the Montgomery family. My small suitcase held only a few simple clothes. It was pouring rain outside, but Isabella's expression didn't change one bit as she roughly pushed me out. She looked down at me covered in mud and filth. Ethan, since you can't tolerate Alexander, from now on, the Montgomery family will no longer recognize you as its young master. Without the status of Montgomery young master, what do you think you amount to? Recalling all this made even my body tremble. What act is he putting on now? I didn't need to guess. I knew Alexander wasn't alone outside the door. Wonder whose favor he's trying to curry this time. It doesn't matter whose. It has nothing to do with me anymore. I'm leaving the Montgomery house anyway. Knowing I couldn't avoid it, I took a deep breath and opened the door. Alexander's knocking hand stopped mid-air. Unembarrassed, he reached to take my hand, but I stepped aside, dodging him. Ethan. He dragged out my name, his eyes darting towards Amelia, standing behind him. If something's wrong, just tell me, okay? Don't ignore me. In his past life, he was only nicer to me when my sisters were around. His act just now was likely for Amelia's benefit. Amelia remained silent for a long moment before finally speaking, but it was to defend Alexander. She looked at me searchingly, her eyes filled with hidden worry. Ethan, I heard from Isabella and Sophia these past few days. Is there some misunderstanding between you and Alexander? Weren't you good friends before? You don't know how many times he's cried secretly because you've been ignoring him lately. She sighed, adopting a tone of complete concern for me. I know a very famous psychologist. If there's something you don't want to tell Isabella or Sophia, tell me. I'll take you to see them tomorrow, okay? So, without understanding anything, she wanted to send me to a psychologist. Right. In your eyes, anyone who dislikes Alexander must have psychological problems, correct? When you let your fans bully me, I didn't see you worrying about my mental state. Are you trying to vent Alexander's anger again? Maybe lock me up in a mental hospital this time? Amelia froze, her expression gradually twisting. She looked at Alexander, then at me, and finally down at her own hands in disbelief. Ethan, she began hesitantly. Did I do something wrong? Please don't hate me, okay? My face filled with alertness. I shook my head and quickly shut the door again. After the door closed, I heard a thud followed by Alexander's pained cry. Amelia, dear. The system screamed, warning. Affection from female supporting character Amelia, 10. Current affection level has dropped below 50. Host, please find a way to raise the affection level immediately. Don't call me that. Amelia's voice sounded somewhat grim. Those two idiots above me might have been fooled by you, but I haven't. You'd better give me an explanation, or I don't mind. I couldn't hear the rest. Presumably, they had walked away. I didn't understand Amelia's sudden change, nor did I want to care. Seeing how protective they were of Alexander already, repeating the mistakes of the past life was just a matter of time. Whatever Alexander planned to do to the Montgomery family, it had nothing to do with me anymore. For me, nothing was more important than staying alive. I rarely returned to the Montgomery house anymore, which meant Alexander appeared there more and more often. The Montgomery family, afraid of causing trouble for me, had always kept my identity hidden from the public. Outsiders only knew the Montgomerys had a young master who wasn't in good health and had been doted on since childhood, but not who he was. Now Alexander had practically assumed that title. He didn't deny it publicly. When asked, he would just purse his lips and smile without saying anything. To others, this looked like tacit confirmation that he was the Montgomery young master. My roommate, Lucas, glanced at me and sneered. "Ethan, how come you're not hanging out with Alexander anymore? Weren't you two riding in the Montgomery car together at the start of the semester? What happened? Had a falling out with Alexander, and now he won't even let you ride in the Montgomery car." I glanced at him, lowered my head to organize my homework, and ignored him. But he reacted as if I'd stepped on a sore spot, throwing down his phone. Gray screamed from a game character's death and snapped sharply. "Alexander doesn't even want to deal with you anymore. You failed at latching onto the Montgomerys, so stop pretending." Alexander, sitting beside him, looked uncomfortable, tugging at Lucas's sleeve and whispering, "Lucas, let it go. Everyone knows Ethan hates me, right? I can't force things." Lucas crossed his arms and huffed coldly. "I just can't stand his holier-than-thou attitude. Wasn't he desperately trying to get close to you before? What's with the act now?" He lowered his eyes, lost in thought for a moment, then looked at me viciously. "I'll see how long you can keep up this pretense." After delivering their threats, the two left. Before closing the dorm room door, Alexander glanced back at me. His eyes were full of calculation. I heard him ask the system again, "System, who has the highest affection level right now?" The system replied, "Currently, it's Isabella. You need to hurry. An affection level of 60 is still too low. You must raise her affection to 80 within a week, or you won't be able to foresee the upcoming plot points." Upcoming plot points? I remember Isabella going to sign a contract, but getting trapped at sea. Alexander rescued her, and that formed the basis of their relationship. Whatever. What did any of that have to do with me? I gathered my things intending to go to the library, but encountered strange looks on the way. Someone pointed at me. "Isn't he the one they're talking about on the forum?" Yeah, must be Ethan, right? Ruthless social climber, trying to get into a wealthy family. Heard he fell out with Alexander because he failed trying to climb into the Montgomery sisters' beds. What? That's disgusting. I used to see him and Alexander being so close. No wonder they don't even talk when they see each other now. Well, if your friend tried to seduce your sisters, would you still talk to him? True. This Ethan guy is really shameless. Could have been a decent person, but chose to be a kept man. I kept my head down, trying to ignore the comments, but a clear voice stopped me in my tracks. Alexander had somehow appeared near the library again. He walked over and grabbed my hand tightly, preventing me from leaving. "Ethan, don't listen to their nonsense. It's all a misunderstanding. They don't believe you, but I do." He said this, but only repeated subjective sentiments, never offering any proof of my innocence. Onlookers would only praise his kindness, not believe I hadn't done those things. What a classic case of the thief crying thief. My silence was taken as admission, and the crowd's insults intensified rather than diminished. Alexander looked even more aggrieved and helpless than I did, his eyes brimming with tears as he looked at me. Here we go again. Does Alexander have any other move besides crying? I kept my eyes down, wanting only to get away from him, but couldn't shake off his grip. His system suddenly blared a warning. Female supporting character Amelia is approaching this location. Host, please maintain your persona and avoid any actions that will decrease affection. Alexander's expression changed instantly. Then with a tearful voice, he defended me even louder. "Stop talking about Ethan. He's not that kind of person. You've all misunderstood him. With an act like this, anyone would think we're best friends. I supposedly seduced your sisters, yet you still defend me like this. Truly magnanimous." I lowered my head with a sneer, my gaze falling on my reddened wrist, frowning belatedly. Amelia's voice cut through the crowd from the edge. Even with a hat and sunglasses, she couldn't hide her striking figure. Soon one of her ardent fans recognized her, screaming, "Isn't that Amelia? It must be. Looks like she's here to back Alexander up." After all, her brother was deceived by a bed-climbing lowlife like Ethan, but still stubbornly wants to be friends with him. Ah, sister is so beautiful. If I knew, I would have talked to Alexander more. Maybe he could have gotten me her autograph. The noise was overwhelming. As the center of the incident, I felt completely detached from everything. When is this farce going to end? Isn't Amelia here to support Alexander? What's she waiting for? Shouldn't she hurry over, push me down, and yell at me a bit? Amelia frowned amidst the surprised and gossiping stares. She walked straight towards Alexander, then handed the cake she was holding to me, standing behind Alexander, her voice full of affection. "Ethan, I've been so busy with work lately. I haven't had time to see you. Are you settling into the dorm okay? How about moving into my apartment near campus? Oh right, this is the strawberry cake I bought for you. I was in a rush today and couldn't get it from your favorite bakery. I'll get it for you next time, okay?" The crowd fell silent for a moment. Even Alexander's face grew increasingly grim. I pressed my lips together tightly, unwilling to accept the cake. "What crazy stunt are you pulling now? I get it. You want to use the same old trick, make people at school misunderstand our relationship, and then have them bully me, right? Amelia, you really never tire of the same tactic. Students plus your rabid fans. With that combo, maybe getting acid thrown on me like last time would be getting off easy." The memory of that bone, deep pain, and the pervasive prying humiliation made me tremble all over. Indeed, nothing good ever happened when Alexander was involved. Amelia's face darkened and she snapped angrily. "What are you all talking about? Ethan's seducing me. The Montgomery family has always had only one young master, and that's Ethan. Alexander is just hired help in our house. How did he become the Montgomery young master?" The system reported Amelia's affection dropping again and again. Alexander finally panicked. He had assumed Amelia's pity for him meant she would never reveal his servant status. Now everyone who had just insulted me turned their malicious gazes towards him. His face turned deathly pale, tears streaming down as he cried out, "So what if I'm hired help? At least I earn my own money through hard work, unlike you young masters and misses with silver spoons, who just have to reach out for anything you want. But even so, you can't trample my dignity underfoot. My background might not compare to yours, but I'm never inferior to you." His sudden outburst stunned everyone present. Even Amelia looked unusually guilty. Alexander, seeing his chance, tearfully ran off. The system promptly announced, "Congratulations, host. Affection from female supporting character Amelia plus 20, back to 50. Knowing I was the actual Montgomery young master shifted everyone's attitude strangely. Lucas even posted an apology under the anonymous thread that accused me of bed climbing. It was all because I believed Alexander's nonsense that I posted that thread. All the ambiguous evidence in it was provided by Alexander. He used me. I hope Ethan can be the bigger person and not pursue this. I sincerely apologize to you here. I'm sorry, Ethan." Suddenly, even more people started criticizing Alexander. They called him vain and unscrupulous, the type to bite the hand that feeds him. He talked about self-reliance, about being hired help, but when his job was mentioned, he cried and made a scene. If he truly didn't care about status differences, why didn't he clarify when people mistook him for the Montgomery young master? Unfortunately, I didn't pay much attention to the forums. All I knew was Isabella called, her voice summoning me back home. It didn't take a genius to figure out she wanted to stand up for Alexander. I deliberately delayed until dusk before knocking on the Montgomery door. Alexander sat crying in the center of the three sisters. The scene instantly reminded me of the last image I saw before dying in my previous life. Here we go again. Amelia looked the most conflicted. She wanted to come greet me, but ultimately stayed by Alexander's side. "Ethan, what you did this time was really too much." "Too much? I don't even know what I supposedly did." It was Alexander who didn't clarify his identity and even encouraged others to spread rumors that I was a bed-climbing lowlife. Have I ever said a single bad word about him or defended myself even once? Right. They probably think this was all my scheme to frame Alexander, but none of them care. The trauma from the past has left me unable to speak easily. Understanding their accusatory stance, I stopped at the doorway, not taking another step closer. This Montgomery house no longer had a place for me. Amelia's expression changed as if she finally understood something. She quickly walked towards me. Ethan, you. Alexander's system started blaring frantically. Female supporting character Amelia affection -10, current affection 40. Female supporting character Amelia affection -10, current affection 30. Female supporting character Sophia affection -10, current affection 40. Sophia and Amelia's affection levels dropped alternately. Only Isabella gave me a deep look, showing no reaction. Seeing this, Alexander seemed to grasp a lifeline, throwing himself at Isabella, grabbing her hand, tears streaming. Isabella, dear, you know I'm not that kind of person. What I care about in the Montgomery house was never the money. It was you all. You are like my real family, letting me feel the warmth of home. Perhaps my existence threatened Ethan, so he... Before he could finish, Sophia interrupted coolly. So he what? You came to the Montgomery house not for money? Who would believe that? If you really weren't after money, when Ethan gave you those limited edition clothes and sports cars, why didn't you refuse, with the dignity and backbone Amelia mentioned? Amelia, though a good actress, was slow on the uptake. Sophia's words finally made her see the holes in Alexander's story. She flushed with anger. Yeah, if you really didn't care, why did you insist on riding in the Montgomery car with Ethan to school? Why didn't you explain when people mistook you for the Montgomery young master? You didn't care? You cared desperately. In an instant, both their affection levels were nearly depleted. Alexander, pale as death, could only cling tightly to Isabella. Isabella's eyes softened as she gently stroked his hair. Alexander, don't be afraid. As long as you haven't done anything wrong, I will stand up for you. So please don't disappoint me. Alexander leaned against her dependently, then in a corner hidden from everyone else, shot me a provocative glance. Even if Sophia and Amelia's affection dropped, the real power in the Montgomery family lay with Isabella. As long as he captured Isabella's heart, what was there to worry about? He was determined to become the male master of the Montgomery house. He frantically called out to his system internally. System, since Sophia and Amelia's affection is already tanked, I want to use their remaining affection to unlock the next plot point related to Isabella. The system seemed hesitant. Host, are you sure you want to do this? Once affection drops into the negative, it's a completely different concept. These supporting female characters will utterly despise you. Alexander dismissed it. Just 2 supporting characters. How much trouble can they cause even if they hate me? Hurry up and make the exchange. Ding. Plot point exchange successful. Current Sophia affection -10, Amelia affection -20. Plot point unlocked. Isabella will be trapped at sea while signing a contract in half a month. Host can prepare in advance and provide assistance. This will surely win Isabella over completely. A look of confident determination appeared on Alexander's face. Seeing through his thoughts, I smiled coldly. Well then, I wish you success in rescuing Isabella. With your system's help, Isabella will surely fall deeply for you. After all, saving someone's life. If you use that as leverage to marry Isabella, she might even agree. Bringing someone who wants to destroy the Montgomery family into the fold, marrying the eldest sister while flirting with the other 2. What great fortune for the Montgomery family. Bless you both. Hope you're locked together forever. Just hope they leave me alone soon. I really don't want to be part of your games. Isabella looked at me intently. Her expression was too complex for me to decipher, but I boldly guessed she wanted to kick me out like last time, just finding it hard to say. So I packed my own bags and left the Montgomery house. I took everything that belonged to me, even transferring my money to a new bank card. That's why I wasn't as destitute as last time, forced to rent a broken-down shack. Sophia and Amelia visited me often. Whether out of guilt or pretense, their eyes filled with pity when they looked at me. Sophia always found time to come by, trying to chat with me like teaching a child to speak. Seeing no reaction from me, she would leave disappointed. Amelia suggested taking me to a doctor more than once, but I refused each time with a shake of my head. Half a month after moving out, I received an invitation to an art exhibition at sea hosted by my favorite painter. Without much thought, I packed my things and went. However, the area on the cruise ship dedicated to the art exhibition was pitifully small. Most of it was for the amusement and entertainment of wealthy merchants and dignitaries. I saw Isabella there, and standing beside her, looking dapper and composed in a suit, was Alexander. He seemed to have expected my arrival. A sarcastic smile played on his lips. He said to his system, "Since someone has to die in this plot point, why can't it be Ethan? If he hadn't been born into the Montgomery family, what would he be? Better off being my stepping stone. At least his death would serve a purpose." Isabella clearly saw me too. She frowned. A sense of foreboding seemed to wash over her. She turned to look at Alexander, apparently questioning him about something. When she looked back, I had already vanished into the crowd. Alexander's vicious voice echoed in my ears like a persistent shadow. "Go ahead and be smug, Ethan. Let's see who has the last laugh." I sighed, wanting to curse him but not knowing where to start. I knew his intentions weren't pure, but I hadn't expected his plan to be so audacious. Even standing in the crowd looking at the exhibition, his people managed to drug me and take me away. When I woke up, I was hanging like bait outside the ship, only 2 or 3 meters above the dark, turbulent sea. And beside me, in the same predicament, hung Alexander. Seeing me awake, he quickly squeezed out a couple of crocodile tears, crying out, "Isabella, dear, Ethan's awake. Save Ethan instead. My life isn't worth much." The man in the suit beside him spoke gravely. "Well, Isabella, have you made your decision? One is your actual brother, the other your lover, boy. Decide who you want to save." How could I not understand Alexander's intention? He just wanted to use Isabella's choice to break my heart. Too bad he miscalculated. The moment I died tragically before, I had already shed all familial affection. It wasn't worth it. I didn't care about Isabella's choice. I only cared if I could survive. Isabella raised her hand, hesitated for a moment, then slowly pointed towards Alexander, saying solemnly, "You let Alexander go. He's innocent." The man in the suit burst out laughing. "Excellent, Isabella. I never thought you'd stoop to sacrificing family for a pretty face. I wasn't wrong about you." He waved his hand, and someone pretended to untie Alexander, but actually swiftly cut one of the ropes holding me, leaving the other on the verge of snapping. The man in the suit's face darkened. "Did you think I couldn't see through your little trick? You're just afraid I'll hurt your brother, so you pretended to care about Alexander." Me? Could it be that was her genuine choice? Instead of saying she cares about my life, maybe she just didn't dare gamble on his intentions, afraid of putting Alexander in danger. Whatever. They both escape in the end anyway, kissing on the lifeboat. Instead of using me as a pointless threat, why not just cut Alexander now? Isabella would probably burst into tears. Isabella's expression changed several times before she finally conceded. "Isn't it the Southside development bid you want? I'll withdraw from the competition. Let him go." Alexander automatically assumed Isabella meant him, his eyes welling up with tears of gratitude. "Isabella, dear." The man in the suit waved dismissively. "Isabella, do you think you still have the right to bargain with me? Just the Southside project isn't enough. I also want the Montgomery family's recent partnership deal." Even I knew about this partnership. It was the secret deal Alexander later sold out. Why was this person demanding it now? The plot, unbeknownst to me, seemed to have changed significantly. Alexander hadn't expected the man to be so greedy either. This wasn't what they had agreed upon at all. He wanted to use the Montgomery family as a springboard into the elite circle, not cripple the family. Today, he coughed lightly twice, trying to remind the man in the suit, but was met with a threatening cut to one of his own ropes. The man glanced at him. "What are you coughing for? Weren't you the one who told me this information? Now you don't want me to say it." Alexander was completely stunned. He panicked instinctively, forgetting he was still suspended, and hurriedly explained, "What nonsense are you talking about? What do you mean I told you?" He frantically tried to signal with his eyes, having forgotten that making deals with tigers requires having enough strength yourself. Otherwise, you just become prey. These people in high positions, born looking down on him, how could they care about supposed partnerships or contracts aside from him? Too bad he couldn't see it. Relying on his system to know the plot in advance, he naively believed everything would unfold according to his plan. A fierce wind rose, rocking the cruise ship with the surging waves. The already precarious ropes snapped abruptly. Alexander screamed in terror at the sudden turn of events. "Isabella, dear, save me." Then he watched as Isabella sprinted towards me. Not just him, even I stared wide-eyed. Isabella held me extremely tight, even using her own body as a human cushion, hitting the water hard before I did. She struggled to hold on to me, searching for something to grab onto while swallowing mouthfuls of salty seawater, yet still managed to comfort me. "Ethan, don't be afraid. Sister is here." I was stunned for a moment, unsure what act she was putting on now, only daring to curse silently in my heart. What a performance. Isn't this supposed to be the part where you're holding Alexander and calling him Dear Alexander? Isabella's expression stiffened. Fortunately, the rescue team I had contacted beforehand arrived quickly. Even so, by the time I was pulled onto the speedboat, I was shivering uncontrollably from the cold. Isabella draped another thick coat over me before finally shifting her gaze towards the struggling figure in the distance. Alexander had been unlucky. A large wave had swept him tens of meters away right after he fell in. By the time he was rescued, he was barely breathing. Once ashore, the man in the suit, who hadn't intended to cause a death, saw the police surrounding them and roared, "Who? Who called the police?" I glanced at him and replied softly, "Who else?" Of course, it was me. Knowing Alexander was up to no good, how could I not prepare in advance? Being able to hear Alexander and the system's conversations, even without knowing the full plan, I had guessed the gist. So before boarding the cruise ship, I had arranged for both a rescue team and the police, ensuring not a single bad guy would get away. Isabella looked at me. For some reason, it seemed like she wanted to smile, but her lips twitched, and she ultimately showed no reaction. She looked at the unconscious Alexander, her expression unreadable, and instructed her hastily arrived subordinates. "Send him for treatment. Preferably, he doesn't die." She paused, then added, "But he doesn't need to live too comfortably either." Alexander, of course, didn't die, but his health was poor. And after soaking in the icy seawater for so long, he suffered irreversible health problems. As for his and the man in the suit's scheme, at minimum, it was kidnapping and extortion, at maximum, intentional assault. With the Montgomery family involved, neither escaped. Each was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Isabella even took me to visit Alexander. I didn't know her intentions, so I followed obediently behind her. Through the thick glass, Alexander inside was already skeletal. Yet he firmly believed Isabella was there to rescue him. "Isabella, dear, why did it take you so long to save me? You came so late. Ryan hurt so much. Everything that happened before was Ethan's idea. He set the whole thing up." He seemed convinced Isabella would believe him and that I wouldn't defend myself, readily throwing the blame onto me. Isabella looked at him and sneered. "Still acting even now? It's pointless." Ryan's face turned white. He frantically questioned his system internally. "System, isn't Isabella's affection at 80? Why is she treating me like this? Logically, she should be head over heels in love with me by now." The system's voice nearly dissolved into static. "Host, being injured significantly impacts the system too. System check. Check failed. Female supporting character Isabella's current affection level, 80. 70, 60. -80. Ryan was in shock. What just happened? How did Isabella's affection drop so drastically? That shouldn't happen. 80 to -80 is too extreme. Did my system actually malfunction? Ryan was so shocked he started crying and wailing again, refusing to believe the system's data, screaming Isabella's name. After all, Isabella was now the only one who could possibly get him out. But Isabella ignored his pleas, stating coldly, "Looks like your so-called system isn't omniscient after all. Can't even penetrate a disguise, huh?" Both Ryan and I stared at her again, unified in our shock, looking at her as if we'd seen a ghost. I knew Ryan had a system because I was reborn and could hear his thoughts. How did Isabella know? However, she had no intention of answering. She simply looked coldly at Ryan. "Didn't you want to get out?" Coincidentally, Sophia's side has collaborated with a national lab. They're currently researching the human brain. Someone like you, carrying a system, must be perfect for research. Now, no matter how much Ryan struggled, crying that he wanted to stay in prison, it was futile. His head was encased in an instrument, and he was wrapped up like a mummy before being sent off to the laboratory. I was forced to move back into the Montgomery house. Without Ryan, the three sisters seemed to have truly awakened, vying to be nicer to me. Yet I could no longer find any sense of belonging in this home. Sophia was very busy with the lab work. On her occasional visits home, she'd bring the latest news about Ryan. We initially thought the system was just some abstract concept, but we actually found it in him, she said mysteriously. "Guess where the system is?" Amelia immediately asked, "Where?" Sophia tapped her head. "In his brain. When we first scanned it, we thought the shadow was a lesion, but it turned out to be a cluster of data that our current technology can't decipher yet. Once we crack it, creating any kind of system should be possible." As for Ryan, according to Sophia, he was basically incapacitated now. His body couldn't withstand the intensity of the experiments and was discarded by the lab after deteriorating. Anyway, the system was in his head. All they needed was to keep his brain active. Isabella later talked to me at length. She said it was only after I moved back to school that she remembered things from before. Turned out she was reborn just like me. She learned about Ryan's system from my inner thoughts. Fearing he might pull other tricks, she decided to play along, ultimately trapping Ryan and his system in one fell swoop. Finally, she looked down at me holding my suitcase and asked, "Ethan, are you really going overseas?" I stopped before the security checkpoint and nodded seriously at her. Regardless of whether Ryan received his punishment this life or whether the sisters awakened and realized their mistakes, the suffering I endured could not be erased. I can't ignore it, nor can I force myself to act as if nothing happened and continue being the carefree young master of the Montgomery family. Rather than that, I prefer to study abroad, seriously pursue my dream of becoming a painter. As for their punishment, perhaps waking up from Ryan's deception, realizing what they had done, was punishment enough for them. After all, their brother, the Montgomery young master, had already died by their own hands. "I have to leave." Hearing me speak, Isabella froze instantly. Since realizing my words weren't meant for defense or explanation to others, my selective mutism had gradually improved, but I had never spoken in front of them. This was the first time. I walked through security, facing the blue sky and a brighter, better future. I didn't look back. The moment I decided to leave, I had completely let them go. Goodbye. From now on, I won't be your brother anymore. I am my own person,